Reading this morning texts 23 and 24, Canto 10, Chapter 59, The Killing of the Demon Naraka. Tatascha Bho Krishnamupetya Kundale Pratapta Jambho Nada Ratna Bhasvare Savai Jayantya Vanamalaya Payat Prachetasam Chatram Ato Mahamani Tatascha Bho Krishnam Upetya Kundale Pratapta Jambho Nada Ratna Bhasvare Savai Jayantya Vanamalaya Payat Prachetasam Chatram Ato Mahamani Tatascha Bho Krishnam Upetya Kundare Pratapta Jambo Nadan Ratna Bhasvare Savai Jayantya Vanamalaya Payat Prachetasam Chatra Ato Mahamani Tatascha Bho Krishnam Upetya Kundale Pratapta Jambo Nada Ratna Bhasvare Savai Jayantya Vanamalaya Payat Prachetasam Chatram Ato Mahamani Tatascha Bho Krishnam Upetya Kundale Pratapta Jambo Nada Ratna Bhasvare Savai Jayantya Vanamalaya Payat Prachetasam Chatram Ahoma Tatascha Bho Krishnam Upetya Kundale Pratapta Jambo Nada Ratna Bhasvare Savai Jayantya Vanamalaya Payat Prachetasam Chatram Ato Mahamani Tataha. Then Cha and Boho, the goddess of the earth, Krishnam, Lord Krishna, Opetya, approaching, Kundale, the two earrings belonging to Aditi, Pratapta, glowing, Jambonada, gold, Ratna, with jewels, Bhasvare, shining, Sa, together with, Vaijayantya, named Vaijayanti, Vanamalaya, and with a flower garland, Arpayat, presented, Prachetasam, of Varuna, Chatram, the umbrella, Atau, then Mahamanim, Mani Parvat, the peak of Mandara mountain. Translation: the goddess of the earth then approached Lord Krishna and presented him with Aditi's earrings, which were made of glowing gold inlaid with shining jewels. She also gave him a Vaijayanti flower garland, Varuna's umbrella, and the peak of Mandara mountain. Well, there's nothing here in the BBT commentary, but I have something to read to you from our acharyas. Text 23 commentary, starting with Vishwanath Chakravarti, Thakur. Short. Bhumi returned everything stolen by your son, including the jewel mountain, Maha Manim, jewel mountain. Jiva Goswami. Again, this Jiva Goswami is writing a commentary following his editing work of Sanatana Goswami's commentary. So what Jiva Goswami says is also said by Sanatana Goswami plus. So here's Jiva Goswami. The Vaijayanti is a 5-colored garland, and Vanamala garland made of leaves and flowers extending to the feet. Bhumi offered him the earrings along with the Vanamala and Vaijayanti garland. Sanatana Goswami commentary, same. Bhu always lived in the house of Naraka, being his mother. She appeared at that time. She approached Krishna directly, Bhagavan, and her husband. That's this and her husband, but her husband is dead. No, that's her son. See. Bhagavan is, Krishna is Bhagavan and Krishna is her husband. There we go. The Vaijayanti is a 5-colored garland, and the Vanamala garland made of leaves and flowers extending to the feet. She offered him the earrings along with a Vanamala and Vaijayanti garland. This was done either all at once or after some time. After that, she offered the umbrella and mountain. Text 24. Prabhupada's translation. No, excuse me, BBT translation. O King, Shukadev speaking to Maharaj Parikshit, narrating this story. After bowing down to him, that's Bhumi bowing down to him, and then standing with joined palms, the goddess, her mind filled with devotion, began to praise the Lord of the universe, whom the best of demigods worship. Jiva Goswami writes, essentially the same as Sanatana Goswami. After offering the stolen item, she, overwhelmed with devotion in her mind, in order to praise him, first offered respects and then folded her hands. Lowering her head and folding her hands, she began praising him since he was the Lord of the universe, and thus, worshipped by the best of the devatas like Brahma, she praised him with such words. And it's essentially the same with Sanatana Goswami, plus this was because she was dear to the Lord, shining with bhakti. This indicates that she knew the glories of the Lord. O King, please understand the meaning of the prayers. I spent a little time searching and couldn't find. So my memory says, how was it that Lord Varaha became the father and Bhumi became the mother? By what was the event? And my memory says, I'm going to consult with others. If I find out differently, I'll let you know. Just by contact, in a way not so dissimilar from Vasudeva and Devaki. The eighth child of Vasudeva and Devaki was not conceived of in a conventional way. Similarly, Varaha simply contacting Mother Earth, by that contact of Mother Earth, she then became pregnant, and then the son was born. Little other piece that I came across was in Ramanujacharya's commentary on Bhagavad Gita. He mentions the meaning of the word Naraka. And he says, which is true, Naraka conventionally is translated as hell. So that's an interesting name to call one's son. Not so dissimilar from one of the brothers, or cousins rather, of Ravana was named Kara, which means ass. Who can imagine calling a son ass? But somebody did. And their son was named Naraka, or at least he became known by that name. Doesn't say how he got the name, but Naraka. Ramanujacharya writes in his Bhagavad Gita commentary that conventionally, commonly, Naraka is translated as hell. Then he comments, this is in his Bhagavad Gita commentary, 16:16, says that that's a Christian concept of hell. Rather, Naraka, by Vedic explanation, it's a type of purgatory. And what purgatory isn't exactly hell. My understanding of purgatory is a little different than what he says or writes, but a type of purgatory where it's kind of like a holding place. And in that holding place, one is purged of the reactions of sins. Now, fifth canto Bhagavatam very clearly describes the different types of hells, etc., etc. And it's not just a purgatory place, but that's what Ramanujacharya. So Naraka means hell, or a place where one becomes released from sins, reactions of sins. So Naraka is the meaning. And elsewhere in Mahabharata, in describing Naraka, because it's not only described in the Bhagavatam, but we read something yesterday from Mahabharata. Naraka lived for a very, very long time. Very, very long time. And he was very powerful, as we heard, because he had this weapon that was arranged by his mother at his mother's request to give to their son the special weapon. And with that special weapon, he was able to travel about throughout the universe, and he was defeating everybody. He lived for a long time, and he was invincible. Well, almost invincible. Because two things. Krishna, this spear that he had, we read yesterday, was an invincible spear. But before it was thrown, Satyabhama said, kill him. And Krishna did. So he didn't get to throw his spear. But this other weapon that somehow ended up in the hand of his son, Bhagadatta, could only be diffused by personality of Godhead. And so from Mahabharata, he stood in the way of this weapon that was being thrown by Bhagadatta. It struck his body and it turned into a garland. So, very mystical happenings. But back to Naraka, because he's been finished and he's the son of both Krishna and Bhumi. Now, I don't know if in previous classes you've discussed this point, but Prabhupada makes a point from time to time about the fact that when the personality of Godhead sees misdeeds that are punishable, he doesn't think of my own men or my son. If a misdeed is done that's deserving of punishment, he'll punish. Even if it's whoever it might be, even if it's whoever it might be. Kind of a side note, but it's related on the personality of Godhead, not being very tolerant of offenses that may be made to him, but intolerant of offenses that are made to one who is dear to him. And that is going to be discussed, well, yeah, in our Memorial Day weekend event, because one of the things, the Memorial Day weekend event is, the topic is lessons from Ramayana. And one of the lessons from Ramayana is Dvivida. Did I mention this the other day? Dvivida. And his brother, Minda. They were sons of the Ashvini Kumaras, and they were very capable assistants to Sugriva, and they were very much involved in the battle against Ravana. Their names are mentioned several times. They're great heroes. Yet, Dvivida made an offense. And so the consequence of that offense was he then became susceptible to the bad association of Naraka. So similarly, one of the questions that's raised that the Sri Vaishnava Acharyas comment on, why was Sita sent away when she was pregnant to deliver her to children, to her, the twins, the boys, Love and Kush? And their explanation is, same as this with Naraka. The personality of Godhead, in this case Ramachandra, can be very tolerant of some offense that's made to him, but he's very intolerant of offense that's made to someone dear to him. And the someone dear to him, most dear to him, was Lakshman. And Sita offended Lakshman by saying harsh, not just harsh, but criticizing him unfairly to the point where his heart broke. How could Sita say the things that she said to him? To get him to go to Ram's aid and leave her standing susceptible to Ravana's. So, not just that she was kidnapped by Ravana because of her offense to Lakshman, but specifically their comment is that Sita was sent away during her pregnancy as a reaction to her severe offense to one so dear to Lord Ramachandra. So that's another example of the same point. This personality of Godhead doesn't accept offenses to his dear devotees. And Naraka, although it was his son, he wasn't overlooking, oh, he's my son, so therefore he can do bad things and I'll overlook it. He doesn't overlook it. If it's the goddess of fortune, or if it's his son, whoever it might be, if they make some offense, they're culpable, commensurate to the offense. So there's fairness in the universe at the hands, particularly at the hands of the personality of Godhead. So that the lesson then is beware of offense and beware of pride, because they can be very detrimental. And Narco is a picture of both. So let's see if there's some discussion.
Krishna Maharaj, sorry for being so late, but I had a question for you. Is lovingness changes?
If what?
The lovingness changes with Krishna. Is it the
Loving exchanges.
Yeah,
Okay.
the lovingness changes. I think he says it's Baba. Is it the same as when you in a relationship, and with your wife, or the feelings that you have, you know, um, for each other, the changes in that sense? Is it the same thing?
Help. Sound system is too much for me.
Baba that you describe is comparable or have some comparison to being in a relationship.
Is the question the material feature a reflection of the spiritual feature? That's the question.
Is it similar?
So in this world, there's affection, and in the spiritual world, there's affection. And is the affection in this world derived from or a reflection of this, the affection that's in the spiritual world? That's your question?
Yes.
Yes, yes. Perverted reflection, perverted imitation of the real thing. There's the real thing, and there's the imitation reflection of the real thing. And the imitation reflection has its shortcomings. It doesn't. It's not what real affection is, and it brings misery. But the misery is also the happiness is not happiness. The misery is not misery. The real misery is forgetfulness of what real happiness is, or what real affection is. And we're kind of stuck in this place, struggling with misplaced, illusory kinds of affection. And it's not that the solution, the conclusion is not don't have affection. That's not the conclusion. Don't be trapped in the illusory kind. Then what do you put in its place? The spiritual kind, where let's say there's family members or friends or something, and then spirit by spiritual evolution, the affection grows on the platform of eternality. Let's do this one. Compassion. Supposing you see something that strikes your heart, and it hurts to see somebody going through such and such. That's an emotion. That's an affection for a person that's struggling with something, and you feel something. So that's a reflection of the transcendental. And how to elevate that to the transcendental, so it's not just the reflection. By awakening our original Krishna consciousness, the misfortune that someone's going through has the root of it is their forgetfulness of their natural and eternal affections and emotions. So that the feelings that you may feel when you see somebody going through some hard time, or they're hurt or damaged, or somebody did something harsh or mean to them or something like that, You can natural. You have some feelings for that person, so there's nothing wrong with those feelings except that they're misplaced. They're natural feelings due to the fact that we have a body and we identify with it, a mind that we identify with it. So those feelings are quite natural. It's not, make it zero. It's elevate those feelings. And how do you elevate those feelings? Which is the same question again. It's by seeing the eternal and spiritual connection between those things, those people, those souls, and Krishna in the material condition has everything to do with forgetfulness of that relationship with Krishna. Not to become numb and don't emotionless. That's not a sign of spirituality. But the deeper emotion is due to forgetfulness of Krishna. People go through this whole thing. The birth and death, disease and old age, and trying to find happiness where there's no happiness. And dealing with suffering, that's not what real suffering is. The real suffering is forgetfulness of Krishna. So it takes awakening of Krishna consciousness to see and feel on the transcendental platform. And that's where we're headed. You have something.
Srinivas Swami, we know that the Lord expands into Lord Shiva to have contact and to interact with material nature, and then everything manifests. Um, the question will be: there should be a difference between material nature, Prakriti, and Bhu, and this earth goddess that has contact with Varahadeva, who is Vishnu Tattva. And so it's a difference. It's a difference there, that there's that interaction.
Yes, there is. I'm agreeing with you. Now?
And I didn't think about it. So, meaning that this goddess earth is, this manifestation is transcendental, it's not worldly, it's not material energy.
The goddess and the earth itself are of this dimension. They're not of the spiritual dimension. Now, there's a Bhu Shakti of the Supreme Lord that's fully spiritual. Let's step back. In common, almost always in Sri Vaishnava tradition, they worship a form of Vishnu or Narayan, just like think of Ranganath, very large deity, the Lord who is reclining in the milk ocean. And in there, it doesn't show the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, at his feet because Mahavishnu has the goddess of fortune within, Ramadevi. But in their in their festival deity, Utsav Murti, there's Narayan, small Murti, and Shri and Bhu, Shaktis. They're spiritual Shaktis. So they're not worshipping the goddess Earth, they're worshipping Bhu Shakti. So there's this, similar to his question, there's the material counterpart or the reflection, and that's the goddess Earth who fell into the bottom of the Garbhadak ocean, and Lord Varaha came to rescue. And by his contact, she was lifted. And one could say, the Bhu Shakti feature became prominent by his contact. But the Bhu Devi or Bhumi that came out of the palace of Naraka was the material counterpart, because everything has a spiritual origin and spiritual reality to it, and she's of the material dimension. And there's a goddess. There's not only the planet, there's the goddess, which is derived from the spiritual potencies.
Yeah, that is clear. The thought was is how she became impregnated
I don't know. I
by,
mean, I said what I said,
yeah,
and I do plan to ask learned persons how, but my understanding is what I said.
yes, yes.
Just by his contact, not by procreation acts, but just by his contact.
This peak of the Mandara mountain that was taken by Gisbomasura. So he was attracted to the spiritual potency of Aditi's earrings, Varuna's umbrella, and the peak of Mandara mountain. So how's he exactly removing the peak of the mountain?
How did he steal the jeweled peak of a mountain?
Yeah.
That's what you want to know?
Yeah, a little bit.
No explanation that I'm aware of. He just has powers, mystical type of powers. And here's something valuable, a jeweled mountain peak. And, he just took it. So I don't know if he had a chisel or, what with the technique that he used to take it, but he took it. It's because it had material value. It's a material place that had material value, a jeweled mountain peak. Yes? No?
Maharaj, this is not related to today's class, but something that was on my mind was, how do we define detachment in spiritual life?
How do we define detachment in spiritual life? Simple. Attachment to Krishna. That's how we define it. That is to say, when there's attachment to Krishna, there's no material attachment. That's what detachment means. No material attachment. When there's no to get no material attachment, which is detachment, is attachment to Krishna. So you have to be attached to something. So attachment to Krishna.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.